So, welcome to the ATS. Around the corner from ATL, Atlanta, close by. All things super. I'm Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington, if you don't know. We have the icon himself, the illustrious Spider. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. If you're pointing at me, I'm going up.
I thought we were using the thing. That's why I was waiting. I was looking for the thing.
No, I told you it slows the recording down. So that's why
it makes me feel so much better.
Do you want a quality video podcast, or do you want to be able to see yourself?
I think we should ask the people what they want.
I think the people would respond resoundingly that they want a quality video podcast.
The people like visuals.
The people can see us with no problem. And I think if they would prefer to not see us freeze.
Will they see the visuals when it's uploaded? What? The background that you worked on the other day, yesterday. Yes. Background that you worked on.
Yes.
The beautiful background that you worked on.
Uh-huh.
With the logo.
Right.
Will they see that when they see this?
Yes, that's what I'm recording. Recording the layout with the background and the logo.
So I just can't see it.
Correct.
Some bullshit. Enjoy, people. I need y'all to enjoy because. So you're here now.
Yes.
Yesterday you were here. Okay. So what we got on the agenda today, Spider?
So for the uninitiated, this is the inaugural episode of All Things Super. So to all of you, welcome. This will be a weekly podcast where we review and recap all things super. So we're going to be talking about movies. We're going to be talking about TV shows. We'll be reviewing and reacting to trailers. You name it, it's going to be just a fun time. But for this week's episode, it's going to be a super time. But for this week's episode, we are going to be reviewing and recapping Matt Reeves The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Colin Farrell, and Jeffrey Wright. So
Jeffrey Wright, my God.
I was just about to say, initial thoughts.
That guy. Is there nothing that he touched that he does not make better? I'm being honest. Jeffrey Wright is a talent that is underappreciated. He brought tears in my eyes in what was that, Shaft, when his brother died? If you tell me you didn't see this, we're gonna have.
I saw it, but it has been a very long time.
And that's what he's been bringing you throughout his career. He was in the Hunger Games.
Yes, I remember him in the Hunger Games.
He saved the people. He was the mind that was behind Cagney's shoot up. Spoilers if you didn't see the Hunger Games. I don't know what you did with your life.
I don't know how long ago that was. But no, he's an incredible actor.
He's the reason that I watched the HBO show Westworld.
Yeah.
And he's just constantly, what if? Constantly cut this man a check. But okay, so the Batman.
Right.
Are we being honest about the Batman?
We're being 100% honest about the Batman.
Okay. I think you should go first.
You think I should go first?
I think you should go first.
So, honest thoughts about the Batman. I thought the Batman was okay.
Ouch.
I thought it was an okay movie. I like the film noir aspect of it, sort of getting away from the spectacle of being a part of this super team, as we've seen with the Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice League, and having these larger than life world ending threats. This is something that was localized. This is something that was just in Gotham, going back to the Christopher Nolan Batman, even before the Joker and the Bane, where you had these, again, larger than life characters. This was something that seemed very grounded, something that was more realistic than a lot of the previous Batman movies. So I do appreciate that part about it. Runtime was a bit long. I feel like they lingered on a lot of shots that could have been cut, and could have shaved off some minutes from it. I think that it was 3 or 4 minutes shorter than Endgame. So it makes it the second longest superhero movie. I think it was the second longest superhero movie, especially in recent years. So the runtime definitely could have been shorter. Pattinson's Batman is, I'll say Pattinson's Batman was good. I was not expecting him to be as good as he was as Batman. I would say his Bruce Wayne. And so here's the thing. I know that this was him being this is his second year being Batman in the movie. And so I understand he's still trying to find himself as who he wants to be, what is it that he wants to do. But I guess with me not having an extreme amount of knowledge of Batman in his early career, or Bruce Wayne in his early career as Batman, I would have thought, or at least I would have assumed, that he had already gotten into this understanding of what he needs to do as Bruce Wayne versus what he needs to do as Batman. So I went in assuming that was where that was going to go, but apparently that wasn't the case. Oh, and also, as if we haven't mentioned already, we're going to be spoilers. So I know we really haven't gone into anything so far yet, but we are going to
put the official spoiler warning out.
Look,
we're going to get roasted in the comments.
But we didn't spoil anything, so we're letting you know now that there will be spoilers. This is your official spoiler warning. So if you have not seen the Batman, go watch it. Batman. Come back, listen to the episode after you watched it, and then
this is your official warning.
Right.
Everything from this time frame is going to be full of juicy spoilers. So if that's not what you're into, leave the podcast.
and then come back later.
Here, and come back. I mean, there's work coming back for it. But if you're still here, just know about to salivate from these juicy spaghetti-filled spoilers.
Spaghetti-filled? Why?
You know what? To be edible. Why are you salivating if it's just a spoiler? I mean, I added on.
I understand that you have.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering why specifically spaghetti. That's my only question.
It could be linguine. It could be lasagna.
You said spaghetti though.
I had to make a choice. I made it, and I stand by it. Spaghetti is delicious.
Everyone has their pasta preferences.
Put some shrimp in there. Now we got some seafood pasta going on with a cream sauce. Or, maybe even a rusty tomato sauce. Rustic. That's not rusty. If it tastes rusty, something's wrong.
Something is very wrong if it's tasting rusty.
If it may be from a can or something. I don't know. How old is that can? Yeah. Regardless. Go ahead. Do your thing.
But, no, it's, where was I going? The whole thing about Bruce Wayne, the way he was just a recluse, and he didn't go anywhere, he didn't do anything. Like, his life was Batman, and that was it. To the point to where when the first time he stepped out into the public as Bruce Wayne was the funeral for the mayor's funeral, and paparazzi and reporters and journalists are all like clamoring over themselves because nobody had seen him before, or had seen him in a long time. So it's just like his attitude towards everything as Bruce Wayne. For me, it was just something that I wasn't used to. Now, and thinking back on it, I can understand that it kind of makes sense for that period of time in his life. But I know that even with Batman Begins, with Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, And I know it's kind of an unfair comparison because two different
It's
directors.
unfair, but it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen because
it's gonna happen.
It's the most recent Batman property that we have to compare it to, and because they're already talking about that. Well, as far as early career of Batman, Batman Begins will be the most recent thing that we have to compare it to.
Okay.
But even with Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, when Bruce came back and he did his training with Ra's al Ghul and he finally came back to Gotham, he was kind of not immediately, but still it was within that time frame of him starting to become Batman. Alfred told him that you're going to have to like come up with some type of excuse as to why no one's seeing you. And so he came up with this playboy persona of going out, just spending his money on wild things and just being a general asshole, because that would throw people off the scent of him being Batman. And so I think that in The Batman, I guess he hasn't gotten to that point yet to understand and to realize.
Exactly.
And I guess one thing that I had a complaint about, or one thing that kind of irked me the wrong way, was just his attitude towards Alfred. That I don't think that
you're not my dad.
Right. It's like that was literally like the second thing that he said to Alfred in the entire movie. First of all, you only get Alfred in like maybe 3 scenes out the entire movie. 4 at the most.
Yeah. Well, when they had the Alfred spinoff, nobody watched it. So don't act like y'all want more Alfred.
Listen, I don't know how many people have EPIX, but I mean.
So now you're gonna blame the people that wanted to work with the story? It's their fault because they're not big enough.
I mean,
you get a name like Alfred, you should be HBO, right?
I mean, you put a show about Jim Gordon in the Gotham City Police Department on Fox, and that was on primetime TV, and that was what, 5 seasons?
First of all, Gotham was amazing.
Gotham was amazing, so I don't see why Pennyworth couldn't be the same.
Okay. Let's get to a point. Let's just go ahead and let the people know. There's a point of backlog that we don't want, you know? Mm-hmm. We didn't need to see Nick Fury lose his eye to a flirkin. We had imagined he lost his eye doing something epic, not being an idiot. I'm sorry. But they tried to make a story about Superman's father's father, and it's like, how far back should we care in this bloodline about? What if they were beefing? You know, I didn't watch it, but at the same time, I didn't want to watch it. I don't care about your relationship with your dad, which takes the best one who's done this. This Is Us on ABC, right?
ABC.
Got it. That's what I was mumbling. But the point of what I'm saying is there's a point that you just stop caring about all the other things that led into the person that you're rooting for. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine.
I don't want to see a movie about Alfred or a TV show.
Or a TV show about Alfred. I mean, you know,
no,
and that's fair.
When you told me that he served in the military and he did all these epic things, so maybe an episode, but I don't need a whole backlog.
I feel like
I don't want to see the adventures of Alfred.
Yeah. But no, I feel like Gotham did it very well. It explained, it referenced Alfred's time in the military enough to explain why he's good in a fight, why he can shoot a gun, you know, the things that Thomas probably would have hired him for, because he's a man of wealth, he's a man of stature. Right. So you're not just
first, which they alluded to in the movie. He's security first, then he's a butler.
Right.
Like maybe he got shot in the field, and he's like, "You're gonna fire me now because I'm no good for you." He's like, "I want to bring you even closer to my family. You be the butler." And it's like, "Thank you, Mr. Wayne. I love you, Mr. Wayne," or something like that. That's in my mind how it goes. But then again, when you give me the actual story, now I'm like, that's, I guess my version was better. So that little ambiguity, nailed it. Gives people the freedom of having it be whatever they want it to be versus what you're telling them it's going to be.
Right.
Now, how many people want that? By the numbers, not many.
Yeah.
And that's what all I'm based on. But go ahead, finish your Batman assessment.
So I would say outside of his attitude towards Alfred, which I thought was extremely uncalled for. For the most part, I enjoyed a lot of the things about the movie. I know I said that there were a lot of takes where the shots, they held a little bit long on shots, but there are some certain shots, like when he's doing his investigative work, quote unquote investigative work, when he's at a crime scene and you can see that he's visually observing each and everything at the crime scene. I do like that part because I feel like a lot of the previous Batman properties didn't focus enough on Batman's being the world's greatest detective, because that's what Batman is. Batman is not only known for being a master of every form of martial arts, a person who has an enormous amount of gadgets that he can use at his disposal, but he's also the world's greatest detective. And so being able to, not like with how the video games use all of this different technology where he can scan an area with the technology in his cowl and be able to see fingerprints and be able to touch something and use the fingerprints on his glove to analyze DNA, like not all of that stuff, like grounded detective work, like being very observant, being able to notice different things. One of the early parts of the movie, they get into the crime scene where the mayor was killed, and there's what they eventually found out to be the carpet spreader made an imprint of blood, which had a very distinct edge on the floor. And Batman noticed it, and he's just kind of like staring at it, to the point to where one of the crime scene photographers hadn't even noticed it, and so she's like, was he looking at it? Oh, I need to take a picture of this. Like, it was just a moment like that shows that he's more perceptive than the normal person. So I do appreciate that aspect of it. Fight choreography was great. The action set pieces were, I think, very well shot. They were very well framed. There were just some things that logically didn't make sense. And there's some, like, there were things that logically didn't make sense.
There you go.
And then, it froze up a little bit. Yeah, you froze up on my screen too.
Nope. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, you are locked up for me. I'm seeing that my network is lagging. There we go. We should be back now.
Dun, da, da, da.
So again, this is new. This is working out the kinks.
We lost you again.
So, but no,
while we frozen, I'm gonna sip some of this.
We're not frozen on my end. We're still moving on the recording, so the recording is fine.
Oh well, I'm not sipping anything.
You can still drink your coffee. There's nothing saying that you can't. But anyway,
I'm not frozen with the cup.
No, you're not frozen with the cup.
I am. Look.
But
man, I was frozen.
God. But no, there were some things that didn't make sense logically, and then there were some things that were just a leap in logic that just kind of got you from point A to point B without having too much explanation in the middle.
Hey, man, it's a 3-hour runtime. Come on, we got to tell a story.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're making these leaps in logic and it's still a 3-hour runtime, then that means that you're including a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be included. But I don't know. What's your take on it? What do you think about it?
All right, I need you to keep an eye on the time because this guy is long-winded, and I'm
Okay.
very passionate about what I'm saying. So let me go ahead and start. First of all, shout out to everybody that was involved in making The Batman. It is a story that should be told, just not sure it should have been told the way it was told. But I know how hard it is to create something and try to get it in the can and keep your vision intact as much as it can to tell a cohesive story. So there's always those challenges. With that being said, we are talking about the Batman, arguably the biggest superhero, and then Superman, Spider-Man, Iron Man. You know, because Batman. Well, we're not gonna leave Blade out there because Blade kind of up there too, but and Spawn. But I digress. The Batman is iconic. Everybody know who he is. All you have to do is show that symbol in different formats, and they'll still say that's Batman. I am a huge Batman fan, and I do appreciate some of the things that they brought into this version of Batman. But I will say this. It wasn't my favorite Batman movie. And I'm not just saying that because of the epic job that Nolan did with his Batman franchise, because that one has some things that you would question about it as well. And maybe the only reason that we're talking about this one is because we are comparing it to the Nolan one. And it's not fair, but I think they knew going in that there was going to be comparisons, just like each and every iteration of Batman was compared to the one before it. So, when they made the announcement that Mr. Patterson was going to be the new Batman, everyone was groaning and saying, "Oh, he can't do it." You know, the guy from Twilight,
Hmm?
which that happens always. Affleck went through his, Clooney went through his, Val Kilmer went through his. Michael Keaton just made a staple of Batman, and you just had to live up to it with your own spin on it. He was an iconic Batman, and so was Adam West and all the other Batmans that played. But the point of what I'm saying is, I'm going to break this down in like three categories for me, as far as the new Batman. I'm going to break it down by Batman. I'm going to break it down by Bruce Wayne, and I'm going to break it down by the story because essentially it's a Batman story, right? It's not a
Right.
Joker story. It's not a Catwoman story. It's a story about Batman. The things I appreciate they try to base it in realism. They have more establishing shots of Gotham all the way through, which brought you more into the city. I love the fact that they based it off realism to an extent. It was based off realism to an extent because, one, I just don't believe that Batman's uniform was bulletproof. It's it's just unless you give me details on how it's bulletproof,
Hmm.
dude's wearing cargo pants. I'm wearing cargo pants. I'm sorry, I'm not Batman, but I'm pretty sure if I get shot in my leg, I'm going down. So
True.
if you would
His
have,
cowl was also like leather. It wasn't like a, like in Nolan's Batman, it was like a
clearly leather,
hard material. That
and they
cowl was
even
straight up
went
leather.
and they even went further and showed you that the first prototypes were bad.
Right.
Remember, Alfred told him, "I advise you not to get hit in the head.
Right.
We're with you on that journey." So if you're going to show me that leather can reflect bullets, yeah, and it's a hard criticism, but it takes me out of my
Somewhere out there they
suspicion
have a
of
bulletproof
disbelief.
cowl.
That one wasn't it. I mean, I just don't. Cows are not. What are you feeding that cow? So
Adamantium.
delicious. So adamantium grass. The
Right.
fact that he could chew it and not die. Um, so that took me out. Right. Don't get me wrong. The little Darth Vader scene was nice, but at the same time, give me an explanation on how is that possible.
Right.
So I think that was just missed. Um, but other than that, him emerging from the shadows, epic. And him explaining and narrating. I mean, I guess you need it at some point. And I do understand that they were saying that this was recently after his parents had died, but there was no alluding to him going to the mountains and learning with the League of Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just supposed to accept that or know that. First of all, thank you for not showing the murder.
Yes,
we saw it enough.
Absolutely.
We know.
It's like
for that.
Two things we don't need to see in superhero movies. We don't need to see Thomas and Martha Wayne getting shot anymore. And we don't need to see Uncle Ben getting shot anymore.
Yeah, that's why Marvel's winning. They skipped right over it. They did kill Aunt May though.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers for if you didn't see that. The world saw Spider-Man. I don't know who did.
I don't know.
Okay, so other than that, Batman's kicking ass. I love the flexibility in the suit.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand why we changed it, but it's not bulletproof. So the flexibility to make the fight scenes a little bit more epic. I did notice that you guys speeded some of that up. I would have liked it if you would have kept it natural since we were trying to be grounded. But suspicion of disbelief, you want to keep it really grounded. When he did his paraglide suit, he should have been down for a couple of days.
Honestly, I feel like he should have died. He should have died.
It's year two. You're not as graceful, but if you go take some impacts like that and keep it real, I needed Gordon to be like, "Hey, where you at?" And he's like, "I'm coming." I might be a little late, but I'll get there.
No, he shouldn't even been able to say that. He should have just been on the ground, Gordon, and say, "Where you at?" You're like, and that's it. That is all you should have got from him, homie.
Because in Nolan's version, let's keep it 100. He got gas. First thing he did, Alfred. I'm not gonna make it.
Right.
And you hit the little you didn't see him hit the tracker or some type of homing signal, but we understand that I got you because the next thing we seen, he was in the car,
right,
still ODing off of the shit that Scarecrow spread in his face.
Right.
It was based in realism. Every situation you may not just return, especially in year one, year two, you don't know what these villains have that they're planning for you.
Right.
So as far as the Batman, okay, the Batman fighting scenes was good. I'm not gonna say they wasn't. So I'm gonna skip now to the storyline. Storyline is wonderful. I'm gonna be honest with you. Storyline was wonderful. The fact that we dove into the fact of why Martha and Thomas got murdered in an alley because we've left it random for so long. Batman didn't know who did it. Tim Burton's, it was the Joker. I think some other version, it was just a random guy. But we put a definitive, we put a definitive reason in this version why they were gunned down in the alley, obviously because they got mixed up with the wrong people. And they showed you again in that well-established Gotham, a lot of people are the wrong people. You're dealing with Falcone. He's a murdering crime boss. That's by definition. I went to him because he probably did save his life. I mean, Thomas is a doctor in many versions, entrepreneur, businessman. So he probably stitched him up because, like he said in the movie, he took an oath.
Right.
No harm. You know, I'm a doctor. I got to do what I have to do.
Got a Batmobile outside your window?
I'm thinking that's him rolling up right now saying...
I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't mean to interrupt you, but that scene where he got into the car and he revved up his engine for like 45 minutes. Why?
So you can feel the intensity.
It was another one of those scenes that was just a little bit too long. It was just a little bit too long. Just a little bit. Okay. All right, but go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm going to talk about the Batmobile in a second.
Okay.
So the fact that we defined where we went wrong, I appreciate that part of the story. And the relationship with Zoe, Catwoman.
Mm-hmm.
You could see how the chemistry started to build and intrigue. I like that part of it. Story wasn't bad. Story was pretty good. Story, you know, you got an honest man. He made a mistake. You know, as soon as he found out, he went to Alfred. He's like, "You lied to me." And he's like, "Hold on, little dude. Hold on. That's not how this. I don't know how you found out who you've been talking to in these streets. I almost died, dude. But you here with this shit? I'm just waking up, and you hit me with this. Well, all right.
Literally, the second Alfred opened his eyes, Alfred got blown to hell for you because the bomb was meant for you. Alfred got blown to hell. He opens his eyes. He sees, oh my God, Bruce is here. I'm happy. Alfred smiles.
We lost Cameron.
Can you still hear me? Anyway, so
what?
Nothing. If my camera goes down on your end, it's still active on my side. So the recording is still good.
You told me that.
I'm just saying that.
What makes you think that?
I see how you react. That's the thing. But no, Alfred sees him. He smiles because he's happy to see Bruce. He's happy that Bruce is there by his side. And literally the second that he opens his eyes, you lied to me. And it's like, motherfucker, what? It's like, what?
But think about it though. If you were really coming up in that situation, he doesn't look at Alfred like a family member. He looks at him like a servant. So you're sitting with that on your chest.
Right.
Because any part that feels like you're close to me pushes you now away from me because you lied to me my whole life. You knew the truth about my parents being murdered and you didn't tell me. So again, he did a pretty decent job playing that part. But overall, which brings me to my next point, the Bruce Wayne part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I would have liked to have, because again, in Nolan's version, and I'm sorry to keep comparing, you got Bruce Wayne as he came back. And he asked him, are you staying this time? Again, we're in the first 2 years, and we understand the first year passed, and you might not necessarily have talked about that. But that would have been great to see the decision that made him Batman. But now we're taking it from a point that he made that decision already. We're just supposed to understand that he went to the League of Shadows and got this training. But did he though? Because there was nothing really in his fight choreography that showed us it was real ninja-ish.
No, not at all.
Emerging from the shadows is like I can stand here and watch and just come out when I feel like the time is right.
And I mean, the Riddler did that.
Yeah, so there was a lot of comparisons between him and him, but your fighting style was that of a street vintage dude. So,
right.
Had you gone to the league, or are you gonna go to the league? Is Batman gonna take like 2 years off and go to the league? And again, just confused, want to be established, and I'm a huge Batman fan, so I just need to understand where we're going.
Right.
All right. So Bruce Wayne aspect, I didn't really buy it. That's the part that kind of lost me. And not to say that he didn't do a phenomenal job. Just for me, Batman's more of an authority. Like, the Batman we know is amongst metahumans, aliens, and gods. And when he speaks, they listen.
Right.
There is no doubt in his mind, and I understand we're not there yet, we're only in year 2, but there's no doubt in his mind that I'm the toughest SOB in the room, and I can take you all out, which in Doom, for those who follow the animated movies, he does that. He has a contingency plan for every member of the Justice League.
Yep. And
makes no apologies about it, as they did in the animated series. It's like, if you guys can't understand the opportunity of you guys going rogue and attacking Earth or the city, I don't know what to tell y'all. I don't even need to be a part of it. And I respect it because it has happened in the comics before. Mm-hmm. Many times the Justice League has some type of parasite on them, and went crazy and started attacking people.
Right.
I remember an episode of Superman. He was in a he was what comatose. He was in bliss, but he was under, and they were trying to bring him back. But at the same time, he was seeing a son, and he was having a life of pleasure. And to bring him back, which they successfully did, but the trauma that played on his mind, because it's like you lived a whole life with a son, and he knew it wasn't real. It was very deep. And that's something that I think that the movies are missing when they're telling these stories. These comic books are not afraid to go there. It's like, I'm going to rip everything out of you and make you go back to the world that you were at. You're thinking, oh, great, I'm home. But it's like, what have you lost and how have you changed? Now, I will say this. As a whole, Batman, I was talking to someone else yesterday about it. I'm going to say like a 6.5. That's not a bad 6.5. Mm-hmm. It's definitely super. It's one of the all things super. Clearly, that's why we're talking about it. I think anybody that is a Batman fan should see it and do their own comparisons versus their favorite Batman movie or show or animation. But I think as doing that, you'll find there are some things that you liked about it and some things that you may not care for. I thought Zoe Kravitz's portrayal of Catwoman was phenomenal. I think the Penguin, I didn't get all of Colin Farrell's movements that defined him as a penguin, but I did hear that they were there.
Right. And I mean, I feel like they kind of took on the same characteristics as Oswald in Gotham, because there was more of, like a bad leg, so it caused him to limp. Yeah. And so that's what kind of gave him the nickname Penguin. So I think they kind of went with that route. They did have a nod when Batman and Gordon kind of cornered them because they were trying to get him to like explain, or they thought that he was the rat, and so they like tied his legs, and so when they were leaving, he did kind of like waddle after him. I thought that was a nice little nod to his very clever. his penguin name. But no, I agree with you. If you are a fan of Batman in general, I would highly suggest that you go see The Batman. Regardless of, the criticisms that it gets, it's still even if you don't think that it's a great movie, I think it's still a movie that you need to see. Just briefly touching on the Penguin, the makeup for the Penguin. Outstanding. Unrecognizable. There's no way that anyone can take a look at the Penguin and no one can tell me that that's Colin Farrell. I've seen it. I would have to actually watch the progression of him go through the makeup. I need a time lapse of him in the makeup chair to be able, for my brain to comprehend that is Colin Farrell as that character. But yeah.
You know who else does a great job at this, and people may argue with me. Jared Leto. He goes under makeup and he's a method actor. He throws himself in the role.
He is.
I know.
And there's a lot to say about what he decides to do. That is a whole nother episode. We can do an episode on Jared Leto just by himself. But no, I do agree with you. Once he's in that character, he becomes that character. So it will be interesting to see how his performance in Morbius, which will be a future episode, but it will be interesting to see how he takes that in his performance as Michael Morbius. But yeah, so makeup, absolutely incredible. The establishing shots, like you said, of Gotham, beautiful establishing shots. They really, I feel like Gotham was an additional character in the movie, because being able to see exactly how the seedy underbelly of Gotham, like almost all of the Gotham that was shown in the Batman was the slums. It was dirty. It was raining damn near every day.
Me and my wife say this all the time. I wouldn't even want a postcard from Gotham. She said if she was in a plane, I don't want to fly over Gotham. It's just,
It's just a horrible place to
from the
be.
series Gotham to every iteration of Gotham, Gotham is not a place you want to be. And this is another one. We were watching Peacemaker, and when Amanda Waller's daughter said, "Let's go back to Gotham," we were like, "Oh my god!"
Like where you are now. It's like where they were. It was like it's so sunny, it's nice. They were like in the suburbs and all this other kind of stuff. You want to go back to Gotham? Really?
Go back to Gotham? We just escaped from Gotham. What are you talking about? No.
But
listen, here's a suggestion, and this is where I would have went if I was in charge. And this again, this is just my opinion. Before people blow up the comments and be like, "You need to do your own Batman movie," I can't because I don't have the rights. But if I did, this is where I would go. Year 2, kept that the same. I would have kept it the same. I wouldn't have gone someone as big of a name as the Riddler, because I would have gave you anticipation to get up to these levels, right? Okay. I would have started off something small, like Batman has so many villains that it would have been okay. I would have gone with Calendar Man. Such a D-list, C-list villain, Calendar Man. Still stayed with the same 7 type of theme aspect because the twists and the turns were great. Kept the storyline the same, but you had this guy making these murders happen in Gotham. I would have probably put Calendar Man in there and gave you some type of comedy with like Condiment Man, because it seems so silly, right? When these guys killing people with condiments. So it's so easy for Batman at this time, and he's finding his footings. He's not coming across a major villain like the Riddler or somebody as menacing as Mr. Freeze or even the Joker. I would not even alluded to the Joker. Right. Like the twist of the Joker I
was not happy about that. I was not happy. I wasn't happy with the way that they portrayed it. I don't even think I liked the way, even though they didn't really show his face, I don't think I liked the way that he looked.
Again, Nolan, boom, did it perfectly. It's a card. This guy keeps murdering people and keeps leaving these cards.
Right.
Yeah. You instantly knew who it was, and you were ready for it. They did not disappoint when it came with the following. Heath Ledger did his thing. I'm sorry, he's an iconic Joker. Not to say there won't be others that won't raise the bar or hit those standards. For its time, for that tone in that movie, he did his thing. We're still talking about it. But it was not introduced for me, just for me. I would have stayed away from it. I wouldn't have brought the Joker reveal out to like the 3rd movie. I would have really, if we're gonna give you franchise, we're gonna give you the Batman, because you put the on it, so you want it to be definitively the Batman. Mm-hmm. Give me. Everybody's seen Batman before Christopher Nolan took it. It was very comic booky. It was very not Batman-ish. They had it to a point that they had nipples on the bat suit. It's just, we didn't know where we were going with it.
Right.
It was weird. So when he came in, he didn't say, "I'm taking that and then adapt." He wiped the table and said, "This Batman is the Dark Knight, comic book accurate. So we're not getting Batman." And I understand they pulled that so they could be separate from Nolan. But the point that I'm saying is he gave you the steps. And if you don't give the steps, you can't really expect people to kind of follow along with you. How is this Batman different from that Batman?
Right.
You got to identify these things. If you don't identify these things, we're just along for the 45-minute engine revving that Spider says too long. You just go rev your engine? I mean, the dude's probably getting away. I mean, you just go rev, you keep revving it. Huh?
I mean,
now we're watching a Fast and Furious movie. Okay,
how long are you going to stand there and just be shocked that Batman is revving his engine at you?
Hey man, if you had a rocket engine to throw it on the
but that wasn't even a rocket making a noise. That was just the engine under the hood.
I would have liked to see that. I would have liked to see him tinkering. Give me some type of this is my hobby. I'm into cars. Like I was into cars when my parents was alive, and I just kind of kept that since a kid. And I'm experimenting with, because he's a genius. Everybody downplays the fact that Batman is a genius.
Right.
Nobody wants to. He's told you that he's trained his mind and his body to be at the top of his performance. He's a genius. So it's not like he's just stepping on the scene and I got gadgets and shit. Like he calculates swings and shit like that. So,
Right.
Show me him building this engine. Since we're not outsourcing this to anybody, show me him with and they kind of did. They did have the Batmobile
Very
in
briefly.
pieces.
Very briefly.
And very briefly. So I was waiting for him to drop the engine in, and I guess that happened off screen. But he was still making the mobile, and then next thing you know, we're running it. So
yeah,
if you're going to give me 3 hours, like you said, make the scenes that count. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Endgame was 3 hours and something minutes, or 1 minute. And you didn't want it to end. You didn't want it to end. You were so immersed in that goddamn movie that you were like, man, I'm sad. It's over. What are we going to do now? Where's the Avengers? Are there Avengers? Like, Thor's gone. Hulk got a little busted, little witty arm. Cap's old.
Cap's on the moon.
You know, Falcon. Yeah, well, maybe. Falcon's just getting his shield, and he doesn't even know how to. Shout out to Anthony Mackie. He's from New Orleans. He had to get his training up. The Winter Soldier was depressed. What we gonna do? Like, right. If somebody comes now, who you gonna call? It ain't the big young Avengers because they weren't established yet. So we were just in a vulnerable spot. If Galactus would have came, would have been done. Doctor Strange over there tripping off mushrooms. I mean, for Fox's sake. I don't know. Maybe. Doctor Strange does have a multiverse of madness to protect. So.
Also a future episode
where I wear a different shirt.
All right, so we're running short on time.
6.5, The Batman. Go see that if you haven't saw that. Spider, you have any closing words for the people?
No, I agree with you 100%. Go see the movie. Even if you're not.
Is it super? Is it super?
It is super. It is super. It is super. I will say that it is super. What I'm thinking is that even if you're not a fan, because I know some people and some notable people were like, oh, all these superhero movies, they're all the same. It's, lather, rinse, repeat. It follows the same formulaic like process and everything.
One of those, all right.
It's different enough to where even if you feel like you're burnt out on superhero movies, I feel like even those people should go and see it as well, because it's a different take on the Batman story. It's a different showcasing of who Batman is, and so I think that you should still experience it. So it is super.
In a world of multiverses, which pop culture now is the multiverse, you can understand that there's different iterations and different versions of your favorite characters, which I'm happy we finally got to this point. If anybody was in the comics before this point, you all know that we've been at this point a long time ago. I'm kind of mad that Marvel rushed it to this point, because I think there were a lot more stories that we could have explored before we jumped into multiversal exploits, but they're pushing the needle. And
DC's going to be doing it too, so...
Well, that was the only way DC was going to be able to catch up, because their previous catalogs were so muddled and messy. Now it gives them the opportunity to explain, hey, all this stuff happened. It was just different versions of it.
Right.
And we're going to move forward with a multiversal event, and we're going to bring it together. They do it in comics all the time.
Yeah.
They call a reboot. They
right.
reboot the series.
New 52. Yeah.
They keep your favorite superheroes. I mean, that's how Miles ended up staying, because it was a multiversal thing. And
right.
Anyway, we're talking about the Batman and DC and Marvel and all these things. So
everything
if this
else.
Is stuff that
talk about all things
excites
super.
You, make you want to question, was it really super? Then this is the place you want to be. And I'm going to drink stuff.
But if you like this type of content and you want to see more of it, let us know in the comments of the video.
Like and subscribe button. I promise I won't do this anymore if you click the like and subscribe button.
They got to get through that first so they could hit the button. But yeah, let us know in the comments.
Somebody go practice that. Somebody go practice that at home. If I could get it like Mr. VIP got it.
But if you have a movie, a TV show, a franchise that you want us to review and recap, let us know in the comments of the video. You can follow us on podcast services. You can find us on Twitter at ATSuperPod. Follow us there as well. But we will be back next week.
We're frozen, but I'm out of drink.
Mr. VIP is going to drink. But we will be back next week. We are going to watch and review and recap the DC animated film Batman Hush. So we're going to talk about that. It's going to be a fun time. I haven't seen it before. Mr. VIP has seen it before. We're going to find out. Is it super?
All things super right here with Spider and Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington.
Until next time.
It's amazing under here.
We'll see you guys next time.